In this video, we're going to show you how to install the rear brake flex hose on your Nissan Frontier located behind your rear wheel. Using a 21mm socket, go ahead and loosen and remove your lug nuts. Go ahead and grab your wheel and set it aside. Now here we have our flex hose, and this end here with the hoop on the end is going to bolt to the backside of our brake caliper. It runs underneath our leaf spring here, and then the center section right here, there's an anchor point that attaches to the top side of our axle. There's going to be a C-clip there that holds that in place, and then the other end goes up, and there's another C-clip where it bolts to a hard line up top. We're going to start by removing our center C-clip, and then we'll remove the upper portion to the hard line, and then we'll unbolt the lower portion to the backside of the caliper. Now right here is a C-clip. It's facing down and it's a horseshoe design. I'm going to use a small pry bar here. You can use a flathead screwdriver or a tool, anything you have to go ahead and get underneath the lip here. I'm going to use my hammer and tap the handle and trying to work that clip up. Now we did spray this down previously with some rust penetrant to help us out with this. And there it is right there. It has an arch to it, so you want to make sure that when you install this, it goes down with the arch facing outward. Now that we have that off, we should be able to wiggle the hose free. And it doesn't want to move, so you can go ahead, tap this like so, wiggle that out. Now when you're pulling this out of the bracket, you can't pull it straight up. You have to pull it back and up because this is actually keyed, so it actually fits in a particular way. So now that that's out, we can go ahead and do the same for the upper, but we want to go ahead and unbolt the hard line up there as well. Now if we follow our line up here to this cross tube here, have our hard line coming down and it goes to the flex hose. There is another C-clip right here. We want to go ahead and loosen that. So we have our tool here with our notch in it. That should fit right onto that. We just want to tap this and loosen it. You can see it rotating right there. So just before it pops off, we do want to go ahead and use our 10mm wrench. We want to go ahead and make sure that our nut here is loose. Now when you're loosening this nut here, you want to make sure that the hard line is not twisting with the nut. If it is, you need to loosen that somehow. Use some rust penetrant or something like that to make sure that that is free. If you start twisting this hard line, it will break on you, and that's just going to open up a can of worms. You don't want that to happen. So soak this down. Work it a little bit, and we're slowly working this here. So before we completely undo that, we are going to loosen it quite a bit. I want to make sure that that C-clip is loose as well, but that helps hold that line in place while we work this fitting off. So at this point, let's go ahead and try and pop off this clip here. Our pliers just aren't enough. Go ahead and just pop this off with your tool. Here it is. Now, if this clip is rusted or damaged, you do want to replace this. You see that has that arch in it there. That is for the spring retention to hold that line in place. Let's go ahead and continue to loosen this. Now we have a catch can underneath. You want to have that catch can ready to catch brake fluid. It will leak out. It's going to come out of the flex line as well as the hard line. I'm going to use my hammer here and just tap that free. Separate that there. Drop that flex hose down into your bucket. Going to take the new line here. Want to feed this up, and we want to get that started onto the new hose here. I'm going to try and thread that on by hand. Once you get that caught, go ahead and run that nut down. We're not going to tighten it. We are going to get it down quite a ways, maybe to the point where it bottoms out. And then we're going to loosen it up just a tiny bit. Want to make sure that this flex hose stays loose so we can pivot it and line it up to the backside of the caliper where we're going to be going next. Okay, here we go. It's grabbing the flex hose and spinning it. So just back that nut off just a little bit. And you can see, we can go ahead and spin this flex hose a little bit. Now we have brake fluid coming out the other end of our flex hose here. I'm going to use a pair of these pliers here to go ahead and pinch this line. That should stop the majority of that fluid from coming out and leaking out everywhere. Follow the flex hose over to the backside of the caliper. We have a 12mm bolt here. Let's go ahead and loosen that and remove it. Now as we remove this, there is a copper washer on the bolt. When we remove this here from the back of the caliper, there's going to be a second copper washer. Make sure it comes off. Go ahead and dispose of that flex hose. Clean up the back side here. Make sure that that copper washer is definitely not there. On the banjo bolt here, you want to go ahead and make sure that you remove the copper washer that is on there. It's a crush washer. It should be replaced. Go ahead and dispose of that. Install the new copper washer. I'm going to take your flex hose, put the bolt in, put on the second copper washer, line that up, and there's a pin right here that goes into the caliper. Line up that bolt, push that into place. Run that in, and what we want to do is just gently snug that down. As you follow the flex hose over, we want to go ahead and install this middle connector onto the axle. Now this here is going to fit on a particular way. The notch here on the mounting bracket is notched out to accept this here. Now, what you want to do is feed the hose through and pull forward so that fits in there. Now, for some reason, if this isn't fitting in, the reason why we left the hose loose up top so that you can use your pliers, grab the hose here, and just kind of twist this and position it so that it fits through nice, like so. It's going to pull all the way through. Take your horseshoe clip here and push it down, and you're going to see how that pops in and secures that. I'm going to tap that down with my hammer. This is locked into place. Now we can continue to the upper portion and finalize that up there. In the upper portion here, I'm going to go ahead and release our clamp. Pop that off, set that aside. Now those are just plastic pliers to pinch that hose there. You don't want to use locking pliers. You could crush and damage the line. Our next step is to line this up and get this fit into place. Now this end here will have to be positioned as well so that it pops through. So you can put the horseshoe clip up on top. You're gonna work this until you get that popped in. There it is. Go ahead and push your horseshoe clip up into place. Tap that on. Now we can secure the hard line. With that hard line secured, we want to go ahead and spray this down with some solvent. Now, as we do our brake bleeding procedure, you do want to come back here and periodically check this, make sure that there is no leaking. If there is, go ahead and continue to tighten down that nut. You do want to make sure that it's pretty tight. And follow that down, and we're going to torque the hose at the caliper end. Let's go ahead and torque down our banjo bolt here, 13 foot-pounds. There we go. Let's now continue to our brake bleeding process. On the front portion of our brake caliper, you're going to find the bleeder screw here. Now, it may have a little rubber cap over this port. Go ahead and just pop that off, and that should expose this. Now we're going to use our 10mm wrench. I want to go ahead and loosen this here. You can see a little burp there. What we want to do is open that up, and we're going to let that brake fluid come through that new flex hose, fill up inside the caliper, and start to come out. We want to watch for a steady stream of fluid coming out here and no air bubbles. You can see the bubbles coming out. And here we have a steady stream of fluid coming down. It's running down the backside of the caliper. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. Snug that down gently. Going to give that a spray with some solvent. Wipe down any of the residual brake fluid that might be around here. Clean that up. Open up your hood, locate your master cylinder and the fluid reservoir right here on the driver's side. We're going to spray this down with some solvent to clean this up first. We want to do this so that we don't drop any debris into the reservoir. Now you want to make sure before you open this up you have the proper brake fluid that is recommended for this vehicle. Go ahead and twist open your cap. Now you can see the brake fluid level right here. It is underneath the max line. So go ahead and use the brake fluid that you have. Fill that up to the max line. Install the cap. Your next step is to hop into the vehicle. Pump up that brake pedal. If the brake pedal feels mushy, you want to go ahead and start the complete vehicle brake bleeding process. If the brake pedal feels fine, go ahead and pop that wheel on, take it for a road test, and at that point there, you're all set. Good, take your wheel, line it up. Set that into place. Good, line up your center cap if you have this. Once you have all of those started by hand, let's go ahead and snug them down. Go ahead and torque down your lug nuts to 98 foot-pounds. Ideally, you want to go ahead and try and do this in a crisscross pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.